Hey everybody, welcome back to Monday Marriage Moment. We're sorry we missed you last week. We had a sad Monday last Monday. We didn't have the emotional energy to get this done.
Yep.
So thank you for joining us today for Marriage Moment. And we are kind of in the middle of a series where we are answering a text that was sent. And one of the questions was, have you over the years heard some marriage mottos or foundational truths, just some thoughts that you can kind of center on? And so we've been sharing those, and we've saved the most difficult two for last. And next week we'll do sex, and today we'll do money. And I think the best advice you could ever get when it comes to marriage and money is marry for money, not love.
No, that's not it.
It sounds really good though, doesn't it?
It might sound good, but it doesn't work.
It doesn't. So get married because you love the person, and then
Yeah.
figure out money along the way.
Yes.
Yeah. Money can be a serious marriage wrecker. And I think one of the reasons is the first thing we're going to talk about. I think one of the reasons money begins to wreck a marriage is we treat money like there's the money you make is your money and the money I make is my money, right? And so I'll get what I want with my money. Maybe I'll pay some of the bills, and then you get what you want, and you have to buy the groceries with your bill, your money. But you treat each other's income as separate.
Yeah.
Your money, my money. And it is not a good way to handle it in a marriage. It creates division.
Yeah. Because when you get married, you become one person.
Right.
And you need to consider that everything in your life now is shared in a Christian marriage.
In a Christian marriage, it's our money.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who makes more. It's not a competition. You don't want to insert division. You don't want to make things more difficult than they already are naturally going to be.
Yeah.
And when you set up a secret account or my account and your account, you are just opening a lot of doors for a lot of arguments, a lot of contention, and certainly a lot of division. If you can figure out a way to just consider the marriage that, or the money that both of you make, call it the marriage's money,
Yeah.
not your money, my money, you're going to eliminate a lot of the problems. But along the way, there's some stuff that's going to come up. So what else do we need to talk about?
Yeah. So we discussed needing to find a common ground, maybe have the same goals when it comes to money in your marriage, and realizing that you both come to the marriage with a different background, probably not the same upbringing as far as how you use money and what you were taught about dealing with money. So it's going to require some talking, some communication on where do you find the common ground of what you're going to do with your money.
Why these last two, money and sex, why is it so difficult to have good communication about those two things?
Well, I think because they're hard areas, and maybe because you come to the marriage with a different mindset from your background.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember, but when we first got married, one of the first kind of obstacles we had to overcome with money was the way I was raised, the way money was handled in the family I was raised in. My parents had a checking account and a savings account and a special account. And when it came to things like a washer or dryer or new tires or just something, my dad would always use the special account to pay for that. And so what I just assumed was when we got married, we would have a checking account, a savings account, and a special account. And that we would use the special account for what, stuff we don't normally have. And then it dawned on me about 6 months into being a youth pastor that you have to have money. You have to have enough money to spread out between three accounts if you're going to have three accounts. And we could barely buy groceries just off of our checking account.
Yeah.
And so that whole, my whole upbringing informed the way we started, and then real quickly realized, oh, this is not going to work. So we had to figure out, how does this work for us?
Yeah, and I can remember us sitting in the living room. We would cash your check and any money that I made, and we would put it in envelopes. We were following a certain budget so that we could make it to the end of the month. We had to learn together, and we really had to communicate. We don't have to do that as much now because we've learned and things are different for us. But yeah, we've had to communicate a lot about it, and I think that's really important. If you choose not to do that, not to communicate, even when it's hard, like that was hard to do some of the stuff we had to when we realized, okay, we don't make a whole lot of money and we're not going to be able to have these special accounts.
Things.
But I would not say, when I look back, I would not say we were unhappily married.
No, not at all. It was just an obstacle about money, and the only way to overcome it, I think, is my point. The only way to overcome that obstacle was we had to communicate about it. We had to figure out a plan, and we had to have the same goals.
Right.
Which was your point. When it comes to the money in your marriage, make sure you have the same goals. Make sure you both know when you want to retire and how much you're going to need. Make sure you both know, how much debt are we willing to get into.
Right.
And you have to have those conversations. Or you find yourself just in a place of contention and division.
Yeah.
So talk about it.
Yeah. It's important. So as we were talking, we were realizing, because we are so different, and normally people marry their opposite. So normally in a regular marriage, there's going to be a saver and a spender.
One of you is probably a saver and one of you is probably a spender, and you know immediately who that is.
Yeah.
And those roles can change over time. We've
Yes.
definitely seen that happen.
Yes.
Just got to know what you are
Yeah.
and know what your spouse is. And not let that be a contentious thing. Just let it educate your decisions.
Right. So as we were talking about all that, and just with all of these things in mind, we've said this so many times that our marriage is our most valuable possession. So when you think about money and our possessions, we have to flip that over and say that means there is no money issue. No issue like if you were upset that I was such a spender and you wanted us to be savers and you wanted to change me over all these years, that you would be so much happier if you could fix all that. That issue would not be enough to wreck our marriage, because our marriage is our most valuable possession.
Money is a dumb thing to allow to wreck your marriage. I mean, anything is, but money is just numbers that you use to get stuff you need and want.
Yeah,
That's
it's
it.
a tool.
It's a tool, and it's just numbers on somebody's bank account. And, Jesus had a lot to say about money and about loving it. And so you just have to learn to love what's important more than money, because Pastor Bobby always used to say, listen, guys, money comes and money goes. You can always make more money, but you can't make you can't fix a relationship with money. Money's going to come and go. You can always make more. Don't let it be the thing that wrecks your marriage.
Yeah.
It's just not worth it.
So as we were talking about this, we were thinking about, what if someone is listening and they're married, they're not preparing for a marriage, they're already married, and they find themselves already in a financial crisis, or they have not communicated over all these years and they have a crisis.
Yeah, that just happens sometimes. Life happens, and a car breaks down and now you're in a financial crisis,
Yeah.
or your house, something breaks and now you're in a financial crisis, or something tragic could happen, hospital bill.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things in life that can just dump you into a financial crisis immediately. And so there's some things you can do in those situations. And one of them is just find some help.
Yeah. Don't be afraid. Just like in any other marital issue or crisis, don't be afraid to get help. If your marriage is your most valuable possession, you will go to great lengths. And that includes getting counseling, getting help, talking to someone that knows how to help you dig out of that.
I would suggest in those situations, find somebody who is a financial advisor who is a Jesus follower. And there's lots of them. And I could, if you want a name of some people, I could certainly hook you up with some people that's their job. They advise people financially. But you don't just want any financial advisor. You want somebody who is also a Jesus follower.
Right. Where
the principles of Jesus are more important than the principles of making and keeping money. But somebody in that situation can really help you in a crisis.
So we said, don't be afraid to get help and get good help.
Good help.
And to pray together. If you find yourself in a crisis, that's probably the first thing that you need to do. And even if you need to have somebody help you and pray over whatever this crisis is, that's a good thing too. And then we had some resources that we know of that we could share. One of them is Financial Peace, which is what we were using when we went through envelopes and had cash and everything. And when that money was gone, I remember going to the grocery store and I couldn't afford everything that was on my list. I only had my envelope with the cash. I had to put some stuff back because I could only use what we had budgeted, so we didn't get in a crisis.
Yeah.
So Financial Peace is through Dave Ramsey. It's a really great resource. And if you have no budgeting skills at all,
it's a great place to start.
That is a good place to start.
Yeah, for sure. And then the other one is, we've already been through this book on these videos, but this is a great resource, the Saving Your Marriage Before It Starts. It's actually a pre-marriage counseling book. However, it was super helpful to us and to other couples who have jumped into this. We've been married 30-something years and there were still things to talk about.
Yeah.
But there's a huge section on the assessment about money. And so one of the great resources that you can invest in is send me a text or an email. I'll get you signed up to take the assessment for this, and it can really give you some insight into the way money affects your marriage in particular, because of who you are and what your background is. So definitely something I can help you with if you're interested. It is a super helpful resource.
Yeah, that was really interesting when we did that. So we wrote down 2 words that I think are super important, just key ingredients in a Christian marriage when it comes to money. One of them is generosity.
Yep.
So I can remember with our kids, as they were growing up, we used to give them a little allowance, and we did that from the time they were very young, and all 4 of our kids are pretty good with money. And I think we started them out well, because we taught them that with money, you save some, you spend some, and you give to God. And so I think God blesses a Christian marriage when we are generous with not just our money, but our time and our talents. And so money is just another piece of that.
Specifically, generosity is the greed breaker. Generosity is the tool that you can use in your life to break money's death grip on your heart. When you live with an open hand and you're willing to help others, when you're willing to give and you're willing to be generous with your money, you don't hold your money as close to your heart as when your goal is to keep and make as much as you can and keep it all for myself.
That makes me think of that principle that we had talked about of having with your money, that this is how you are with your money, or you're generous with your money and you have an open hand, that it just shows such a different piece of your heart. And I think that's true for a marriage too.
For sure.
So the other word we had written down was gratitude. And I was just telling you about, I think about this often, that I'm so grateful, and I tell you sometimes that you work so hard and that you make money for us, and you've told me that too about me, that you're grateful that I do my job and that I add something to our marriage. I think it's really important that we just consider that sometimes and tell each other that, because we're a team and we both bring something to the marriage, and it's important to be grateful for that. I think when we don't take time to do that off and on throughout our married life, it could be tempting to not be grateful, and then to start looking around for maybe there's somebody else out there that makes more money that might make me happy, which when I think about that, I know that's not true at all. It wouldn't be happier just because I have more money. So I think gratitude is really key.
Yeah, the opposite of gratitude is entitlement and resentfulness.
Yeah.
And neither one of those things has a place in a marriage.
No.
And so when you can just develop a spirit of gratitude, and that's a skill you can learn. To
You
learn
choose.
to be gracious.
It's a
You
choice.
choose, absolutely. Well, that's all the notes we have, and we've probably said enough to make everybody really uncomfortable. But it's one of the most important things you can do. The two leading causes of divorce are disagreements about sex and disagreement about money. So you got to have a good plan for money. And the best plan is just to follow the scriptural principles, which we've kind of outlined here today. Don't let money be the thing that wrecks your marriage. Your net worth is not worth
No.
ruining your marriage. Your marriage is more important.
Right.
Thanks for taking the time to watch. We would love it if you would hit like and subscribe and share. It really does help us, believe it or not. Thanks for being here. We love you guys and we love your marriage. So keep investing in your marriage. Bye.